Welcome to today's episode, everybody. Today we're going to be covering electricity. We're going to do a deep dive into the ins and outs of all the electrical plants, the modules you can put on them, and which ones are best as far as monetarily speaking. Which ones you can use to make money with, and which ones are just overall efficient. And then later on we'll do that tier list, which I will tell you how I would rank them. So we're going to start, we're just going to cover, I put this spreadsheet together. You can see it up here. I kind of just went through all the power supplies, wrote down all their modules, their upkeeps, their build costs, what power at max that they generate. And we've established through testing that you get a stable price per megawatt of $2,500. So for every megawatt that goes outside the city, you're going to get $2,500 for it. So as long as your monthly upkeep per megawatt is less than your total amount of megawatts, what you can produce. Basically, I'm in this instance I'm calling it trade value. As long as your trade value in total is higher than your monthly upkeep, then you have a return on investment, which in this case is represented by green. So as you see here, the wind turbine, it's great early game because you unlock it at the very beginning. And the only downside is it needs to be put in a windy area, and some maps don't start with a windy area. Now they can obviously later be moved once you unlock a level with maybe more wind, so they may not be super efficient off the bat, but they're not bad starting power supplies. They're relatively cheap to build, and they're relatively cheap to operate. I personally wouldn't recommend the battery extension unless you're later game and you really just need battery extension, because pretty much at that point, once you put on the battery extension, you're operating at a net loss. Okay, yeah. So it's got a very small, higher trade value than the monthly upkeep. So if you're putting on the solar assist and the advanced battery rotation to increase the megawattage, which, as we've established, both of these are an improvement because the trade value is higher than the monthly upkeep. So it's a positive advantage. You want to build the solar assist, you want to build the advanced rotary system. So let's say per turbine, if you added those two modules, it would take you on maximum efficiency, so a minimum of 5 megawatts. It would take you 86.67 months to regain your cost to build, is basically how that breaks down. So you would get $65,000 in profit every 86.67 months. So it's low, but it is net positive. So that's, like I said, it's not a terrible power supply, especially early on, but it's not going to put you in the hole, which is a good thing early in the game. Alright, so before we go to our next one, we're going to go to the intro real quick, and we'll be right back. I'm popping in for a quick second to thank you again for watching, and to welcome you to this video on the Area of Effect Gaming channel. Please consider leaving a like and subscribing if I earned it. Now back to the video. So comparatively, quick math, 15 times 4, it's equivalent to a wind turbine, it looks like. So like I said, it's not horrible. The problem is it's just you don't get, for the amount that the cost to build and upkeep, you're not maintaining a positive trade balance. So every 5 months you're going to lose $100,000, which is essentially what that number represents as at -5. So we'll just count this as months towards return on investment, or loss in this case. So the coal power plant, it can be put down if you absolutely need a lot of power quick, but as soon as you have a better power plant, take it offline or just bulldoze it. try to get your money back. It's not worth keeping on long term, otherwise it's just a money suck. The next power plant is the gas power plant. It operates pretty much at a net zero, which I found very weird, because none of the other power plants operate at a net zero. So if you do no other modules, just the gas power plant, its trade generation value and its monthly upkeep is exactly the same. So you'd operate at a net expense. Now, should you change efficiency, let's say with happy employees and other bonuses in the city, you have 105% efficiency. Every 20.8 months, it will get you back your investment of $650,000. So with efficiency, it will make money, but out the gate at base efficiency, it will not. So there's that to think about. And then any of the other modules, the only other module that gives you megawatts is the turbine. And even with efficiency, it's just never gonna recover expenses. So it's not worth it to add the additional turbine unless you really need the power. And you're okay operating at a net loss for a little bit until you get a bigger power plant or something like that. Overall, not horrible, but not good either. Now the coal is where we start getting into power plants that require like resources. I can't remember if the gas requires resources or not. I noticed it in coal, and that's when I put this here. The gas may require petrochemicals. I can't remember, just because. But it fuels by petrochemicals, and the coal plant obviously is coal. And with it taking coal, it can be efficient. Especially with the additional turbine. The additional turbine is technically net neutral, but again, with efficiency increases, it can be monetarily efficient. And the base trade value off just the coal plant is net positive, so you can expect to recover your build costs of $1,500 in 10 months if you build the additional turbine with the coal plant. But again, that does take a non-renewable resource. You got to keep that in mind. It might be a good early game until you exhaust all the coal on the map, which I don't know, may or may not ever happen in any of these games. Haven't played long enough to figure that out. But I'm sure somebody will mod in unlimited resources one of these days. So it may not be an issue, but if you work theoretically on a map with limited coal, this may not be the best option for you long term. But it does make money, and fairly quickly. Geothermal power plant is good, definitely good. It has to be put on a groundwater deposit. I don't think it pollutes it. I'm not positive, but it does just have to be on a groundwater deposit because that's how the geothermal interacts. It's just a requirement for the plant. But if you build the plant and the two additional modules that give you power, they both make money, and then the plant makes money. So it is overall a net positive gain for the geothermal power plant, and you can recover your expenses of $1.3 million in 7.8 months, which is pretty good. So that is definitely a good power plant to unlock and use. My understanding, its only limitation is that it needs to be put on the groundwater. So if you have plenty of groundwater on your map, this may be the power plant you want to go to. If you have plenty of groundwater in industrial areas, because you don't want to put these near residential, obviously, because they still put out, pollution and stuff. So moving on, the solar plant. One of my favorites. I just like solar in general, but it has one module that you can add that adds megawatts, and it pretty much almost double in trade value to its monthly upkeep. Same with the power plant itself. So it is a moneymaker. It is pretty big. I wouldn't say it's huge, not like the nuclear plant. I could probably fit 2 solar plants where a nuclear plant is. Oh no, and I stand corrected. It's about 30% smaller, maybe. I can't stack it that way. There you go. So you can kind of see it's just a little bit smaller than a nuclear plant, but not by much. So it does take up a significant amount of space, and that's one of its downfalls. But it's not horrible. It's not horrible at all. And it's green. You don't have to worry about fueling it. It doesn't need fuel or anything like that. No petrol, no coal. Just needs the sun. But that is inherently a disadvantage. If the sun's not out, then it's not going to be as efficient. So taking into account the inefficiencies when it's not on, you have to calculate that in. But with efficiency bonuses, you could drop, I think I did a test, you can drop all the way down to 65% efficiency before it gets to a really large number to where it'll almost be negative. So you have a big margin to play with. Oh, you know what? I did write it down here, but of course I did it wrong. So you have a bit of a margin for it to, operate positively. So you don't always need to have sunny days for it to be, it needs to be 65% at least efficient to be making money. But assuming it's max efficient, you're making money on the solar plant easily. I'll move on to the nuclear plant. The nuclear plant is super expensive to build, but oh my god, do you make so much money off of it. It doesn't have any modules, you can't do anything to it. I'm about to check. I don't think, it doesn't take any fuel. It miracle energy, I guess. I guess the game doesn't have uranium, otherwise that would be a fuel. But yeah, so nuclear is huge. Once you get to the nuclear, the problem is it's locked by the 3rd tier of development points. So if you want to go for it, you got to put a significant amount of points into it. I think you got to go 2, 4, and then 8. So you're talking 14 points just to get the nuclear power plant, just to spend $5 million. But as soon as it's down, if you've got power lines down, you're making money. Now the heavy power lines do only conduct 400 megawatts at a time, so you have to. Now it knows the power plant, as you can see, it's got a thing here and what do they call it? Basically a built-in transformer here and here, so you can have 2 outbound lines, so it can accommodate the 750 megawatt. But nuclear is definitely nuclear option is definitely there, so to speak, if you want to play on words. The hydro plant, we'll move on to that. This is a bit of a tricky mistress. I have not been able to find a way to build a successful dam yet. Without the game having a water pump where I can displace water into an area, I have no way to raise the water level behind the dam. And I haven't seen any maps thus far that give you anywhere near a decent setup to actually build a dam. So essentially right now the dam is worthless, but theoretically, if any of those things change, if they put in water pumps or stuff like that, or if they add in terrain tools to where we can change the water level height, like we could in Cities Skylines 1, either with a mod, or I can't remember if that was base game or mod, but I think that was the terrain mod that did that. But we could change the water level. So I could bring the water level right to the crest of the dam. That way I could ensure that my dams could generate power. So I effectively have no use for a dam until any of those options are fixed. But theoretically, at max efficiency of 20,000 megawatts, which I did a test span right here. I did a test span right here, and this was, I think it potentially would generate 4,000 megawatts is what it said. Well, it's saying 1,300 right now. Oh, it's because I had it. So when I did it, I had dug. Basically, I'd turned this into a giant hole all the way down. So yeah, it said 4,000 megawatts, which the max on the dam is 20,000. So you can imagine all the way deep to bedrock, 4 times this size wide would be generating 20,000 megawatts. So in reality, I don't think we're ever gonna see, unless somebody does a crazy video where they do that and make it, we're not gonna see realistically a 20,000 megawatt dam. No Three Gorges in this game. So we can plug that in. It still brings the efficiencies just off the roof because the upkeep is almost nothing. It can be expensive to build, although the build cost, it says 1,500. I think based on what I was doing, that's the base. It costs a minimum of 1.5 million, but it costs so much more. I think that span I just showed you that I was trying to run, it was going to be like 5 million. So you can expect a hefty payment to try to build a decent sized dam between 1 and 5 million. But at 4,000 megawatts, if you can get that to work at any point, you're generating 10 million in trade value. So, I mean, that's insane. Every fifth of a month, you're recouping your base costs of 1.5 million. So let's say we change that. Let's assume that we're building a $5 million dam. Okay, doesn't change it much, just a half a month. But yeah, you see what I'm getting at. The hydro dam's overpowered, but I haven't found a way to build it yet. So if you can build it, that's definitely the way to go. Right there. The only other power generating thing I could find, if I missed one, God forbid, let me know in the comments, and I can make a comment amendment later on. But I did find the incineration plant because it generates power. All in all, it operates at a net negative. The power is just not enough to keep up with the upkeep. I did kind of compare it to a recycling center. So you can consider, for the amount you're paying to build it and upkeep it, the incineration plant, based on processing capacity, is twice what a recycling plant is. So, or half, I can't remember. But what I do remember is basically an incineration plant, what you're paying for it with upkeep and cost, is equivalent to a power plant of size and a recycling center. So it's kind of basically a 50-50 building. But if you're looking for it to generate money for you, it's not going to do that. So I didn't even put it on my tier list, but I did want to run the numbers for it. So there you go. And if anybody wants access to the spreadsheet, they're more than welcome to join Discord once I'm completely finished with it. I will post it there. Or I'll make sure to post the Discord link in the description, but it should also be available on my channel profile. So without any ado, let's go to the tier list. Let me bring it over real quick. All right. So the tier list, I gotta move that over again, sorry. All right, so the tier list we're gonna do here, like I said, it's not gonna include the incineration plant. We're gonna start at the bottom and move our way up. And we're gonna go with the start. We're gonna do D, the small coal power plant. And that's the one you can do from the beginning of the game. It's a net negative, it never changes. You can't put any buildings or modules on it. It's just a D because it's a money loser, and it'll never be anything more than that. The only thing it has going for it is it's available at game start, and it doesn't require development points. You know, so there's that. Moving on, we have no more Ds. That's the only one I rated at a D. The next D, or the next C, is going to be the wind power plant, or wind turbine. To me, it's available at the start, it's cheap, and it does have a return on investment, although very long. So it will not put your city bankrupt. So therefore, for me, it gets a C. It gets kind of a neutral grade. And if you got any different opinions on that, let me know in the comments. Any difference of opinion on any of these, by all means, let me know in the comments, and we can duke it out. The next C is going to be the gas plant, which is this one. The gas plant, to me, since it operates at a net neutral, and it does take a non-renewable fuel, I just don't see it as a long-term solution for power. I mean, you can use it if you want. I'm sure it does look pretty cool, but you know, to me, it's a C. It's not horrible, but it's also not something I would ever probably use on a regular. So to me, it gets a C. So we're going to jump into our first B tier item, and that is going to be the coal plant. So the coal plant, it gets the grade that I gave it, simply because it puts out a decent amount of money, you know, if you're selling it back. So its power output is good. The reason it's stuck at B and not higher is because it's a non-renewable resource. So if you run out of coal, that power plant's useless. Not to say this game will ever do that, like I said earlier, but that's just why I graded it that way. So if you don't see that the same way, yes, it could easily be an A tier. You know, if you're using unlimited resources or something like that. But anyway, that's where I put it, at B. The other B is the hydro, and that purely gets a B. It's obviously an S tier with any given map that has the ability to dam something. The only thing that puts it down at B is the fact that you can't put it anywhere. So now, if I'm wrong, if you found a place to put it, by all means, let me know. I will pull that map up and I will build myself a dam very happily, because I love dam power. So that's why I gave it a B. Otherwise, it's the best moneymaker in the game. You know, even if it's a small dam, because if you can get, based on the low upkeep cost, even a relatively small dam should be able to generate money. It might take longer to pay off because it was a $5 million, or $2 million build cost, but it will make money. There's no doubt in my mind. So, could be an A, could be an S, definitely, but for me it's a B, just because right now I don't see a use for it. With that, we're going to go on to A tiers. And with our first A tier, we're going to do geothermal. And we give geothermal an A because it is a renewable resource. Only thing we need for it is a groundwater deposit, which I'm pretty sure pretty much all maps are numerous. So you could have a couple in the city if you needed, which should be all the power your city needs. And it's relatively easy to access. It only requires 2 milestone points. So if you want to go start making money early, just put 2 points in it and go. So econess, power output, money output, and the ability to get it quick is why I gave it an A. The next A tier is going to be nuclear, and that is for sheer volume of output. This thing generates money like nobody's business. It's just expensive. So, to me, by the time you get to the point where you could even put down or need a nuclear plant, money shouldn't be an issue for you. You should have already had industrial set up. So to me, it was a non-issue. That it didn't really count against it as far as its cost. Now, the only thing that keeps it out of S tier, I think, is its milestone points. It requires 14 total points to get it. You got to go 2, 4, and then 8. So you gotta know you want to go nuclear, and invest down that tree. But other than that, definitely solid A tier. And obviously we have one left, and everyone knows where it's going. Into the S tier goes the solar panel. It is purely for its return on an investment. It is renewable. It is relatively lower cost, and is relatively easy to access via milestones. You just need 5 points. 1 point for the battery to unlock it, and then 4 to get the solar panel itself. So it is relatively easy to access early game. And I think within the first 2 or 3 milestones, I had mine down in my city. So it definitely, there's no reason why for me solar isn't an S tier. If you don't think it's an S tier, let me know. But otherwise, that is my tier list, everybody. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Again, if you want access to that document, let's get into join the Discord, and you can get access to that. Other than that, I had intended to walk you through each power plant, but we're already at 30 minutes on the video. I probably took a little longer than I should have. I think maybe we'll just do that in our next Halcyon Shores video. I'll walk through all the power plants, or maybe I'll do a part 2 to the power, I don't know, or I'll touch it when I do water, because there's not a whole lot of water options. But anyway, thank you for joining me today on this video. I hope to see you on the next one, and if you haven't already watched the Halcyon Shore series, I think we're in 4 or 5 episodes now, but I've got like 9 recorded, so there's plenty of content to come for the next couple weeks. Be sure to check that out. I'll make sure I'll obviously ping the playlist at the end of this video. But let's go to the outro. Thank you for watching to the end of the video. If you liked what you saw, please click the subscribe button on the screen. and hit that notification bell if you want to see more content when I post it. I look forward to seeing you on the next one.